We are going to be talking about ArchivesSpace, which is an open source program for managing archival records and materials. Now, if I was actually going to use ArchivesSpace to manage records in an archival repository, I'd need to have it installed in a server and have all the preferences set up. It would be a bit of an involved process. Fortunately, ArchivesSpace on their website provides a sandbox, a way of demoing the features without having it fully installed. So that's what we're going to use today, and because we want to see how this program would work for someone working in an archive or a special collection, we are going to use the archive staff view as opposed to the public view, what a member of the public would see if they were trying to search for records in this. So we'll click on the Archive Staff button and we'll sign in. Because this is a sandbox and not a secured website, the password and username are both set to admin. Security is not a big concern when you're running a sandbox. You actually want to let everyone in. So we sign in. And what we're going to do first is talk about how we create an accession record, which for those of you who aren't as familiar with archival terminology is the sort of record we create when we get a new collection into an archive. So for the purposes of this, I am going to enter information about a fictional collection based on my two cats, Sandcat and Delirium. This fictional collection is going to be called the Fuzzy Cat Collection. So we type that into the title field. Then the identifier is for the identifying series of numbers or letters that we'd use to identify the collection. So let's say the identifier consists of these numbers. I'm just entering numbers at random for demonstration purposes. Also to show that these fields can accept a seemingly unlimited number of numbers. There might be a limit at some point, but I haven't found it. So moving on, we enter the content description here, so a summary of the materials that are contained in this accession. So in this accession, there are materials related to two cats named Sandcat and Delirium. And then here we describe the condition of the materials. So since these materials are related to cats, I am going to write these materials are covered in cat hair. Because, well, if any of you have cats, you know how it goes. So disposition tells you what collection the material was assigned to. So if you were getting in a lot of materials, they could actually end up being divided into more than one collection. But in this case, all the materials are going to be assigned to the same collection. So I'll write all materials assigned to the Fuzzy Cat Collection. And inventory, here we write what is in the collection, so we type a list of what was in it, so cat pictures, cat toys, cat blankets, cat videos, etc. Provenance would be where the materials came from. So I would write all materials were donated by the Hetley family, owners of Sandcat and Delirium. And materials were received directly from the Hetley family with no intervening owners. And I do apologize for the typos I'm making in this video. Professor Leach, I now sympathize more with your typos from your videos, just saying. So retention rule, that's how long you're going to retain the records. If you're working in a traditional archival repository, it would be retained forever for the most part. If you're working in records management, such as for a company, then it would be however long they're needed for legal reasons or company reasons. But we're assuming that this fuzzy cat collection is of great historical value and we're going to want to save it forever. So we're going to write in indefinitely here. And then this is where you'd add any general notes you needed to add. I don't particularly need to add any for this. So this acquisition type is for what type of arrangement was made with the person who gave you this. So we're going to assume that this was given to the cat repository as a gift as opposed to a deposit where it wouldn't actually belong to the repository, or a purchase where they would have had to pay money. So a gift, and this is a collection. If any restrictions applied to the use, we would check yes here. We're going to say that no restrictions apply because we want everyone to know about the cats, right? And we're going to say that we will not publish this acquisition record because acquisitions records aren't usually made public. It's what we're going to talk about later, finding aids and records for the collection that are made public. And there are no access restrictions or use restrictions, but if we wanted them, we would type them in here. Now, there are quite a lot of other options here. I'll just go over them briefly. This is where you'd add the dates for the collection. So if you wanted to say this collection was created in 2005 to 2016, you'd add that here. And then this has the option to say what all the different dates are. So these are inclusive dates, meaning covers the whole collection. And then it asks us to enter it in another format. So if we wanted to include months here, we could, but I'm just going to include years to keep it quick. So 2005 to 2016. And then it asks us how certain we are of the dates. It doesn't have an option for completely certain, so I'm assuming that if you leave it blank, you're saying you're completely certain, as opposed to these are the approximate dates, these are the inferred dates, or the dates are questionable. Now, era, it only gives you one option here. Not sure why it doesn't give you an option for before the Common Era. I guess it's assuming that most archives won't be dealing with items before the Common Era, that they'd mostly be in museums. Seems a bit of an oversight to me, but anyway, since my cats are not completely ancient Egyptian goddesses, this is going to be Common Era. And the Gregorian calendar, because that's the only option. Then here we can enter the extent of the collection. So we're going to describe how large the entire collection is, and we're going to describe it in linear feet, and we're going to say this is a reasonable size collection. It's 75 linear feet. And then we can enter more details about this here if we wanted to. And if we needed to add some additional information about the creator, the source, or the subject of this collection, we could add them here. So we'd select the role here. Here we'd say what they did. So if we were talking about a author who had written a book about these cats, we could say creator, enter their name here, and type and add author. Now if we had some other related resources in our catalog, we could add them here. Because we're using the sandbox, there aren't any other resources in here, but if we had another collection about these cats or about cats in general, we could add that those are related. If we had another accession that related to this collection, if we had other things that we'd added to our archival repository that fit within this same thing, we'd add them here. Here we can add subjects, so if we wanted to add that the subjects were cats and fuzziness and whatever subjects we wanted to add, we'd add them here. Now subjects are defined by another feature of ArchivesSpace that I'm going to go over later. So if we were using the full version, we'd be able to select subjects from a drop-down menu of the subjects we'd created. Alright, so external documents, if we had any additional documents we wanted to add. Rights statement, if we need to talk about copyright or intellectual property issues, and we can add external documents about that. Here we can add containers within our accession, or if we had a digital object, we can add that as well. So if we wanted to display some digital photos as part of it. Now adding a digital object is another additional feature that ArchivesSpace has. We've also got deaccession, so if we discovered that there were some items in our collection that we did not need, so let's say we had 20 copies of the same photo. We only need really 1 or 2 of them. So we would say that we deaccessioned part of it, and we type in multiple copies of the same photo. And reason, only 1 copy was needed. And disposition would be what we did with them, so we'd say we returned them to the donor. Because clearly the people who donated it, myself and my husband, need 19 copies of photos of our cats. Who wouldn't? And then if we wanted to say when it was removed, we would type that in here. So these are some more advanced options for managing the collection. I'm not going to go into great detail on it, but you can see here these would be things that are important if you were going to be creating this record as a first step towards processing a collection. So for example, you can set the priority, estimate how long it's going to take, etc. Then we've got classifications. And if you needed to add some fields that were not included in any of these, you can create your own user-defined fields. So that is how to create an accession record. I hope that has been helpful.